Okay, it says we're live. Are we live? Let me check my phone. Still says waiting for Alan Bell, but here I am. I'm sitting right here talking to you. It's March 2nd. It's now my birthday month. That's exciting, isn't it? Also means that's my sister's birthday month because their birthday is on the 9th. So I'll have something special to open up on the 9th. I'm not gonna say what it is yet, but I'm gonna. I don't know how's the schedule work this month. Let me look at that real quick, since I know I'm up on camera now. Yeah, so today's the 2nd. I'm guessing the 9th will be next Monday then. Maybe next Tuesday. Yeah, it's next Monday. All right, so tentatively, my plan is next Monday. I'm gonna open up something special in honor of my sisters to commemorate their birth. So and it's something that I associate with my sisters. The day of my sister's birth. I'll put it that way. So today I've got to open up for you the Super 7 Ultimates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michelangelo, or is that Michelangelo? They finally started spelling this correctly. For the longest time, Michelangelo's name was spelt like the name Michael with Angelo attached after it. But you can see it's Michel Angelo. Michelangelo, I believe, is how the artist's name is actually pronounced. Although I think most people say Michelangelo to the point where it's become colloquial. But there's a joke about that in the Lego movie when we see Michelangelo the Ninja Turtle and Michelangelo the artist. you hear Morgan Freeman say Michelangelo when he's naming off everybody. So now I got this one secondhand, and I did not get the slipcover for this one, and did not get the brown mailer box. But I did notice something funny when I glanced over here at the brown mailer box for Splinter. It says choking hazard, may contain small parts, adult collectible, not a toy. And I always find that amusing. Just because it's an adult collectible doesn't mean it's not a toy. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it. I'm going to be that guy right now. But I'm pretty sure that's for legal reasons, so they can maybe get away with certain things that they might not get away with. Something that was bespoke to be a child's plaything. But we got the green brick printing, around the edges, because he's a good guy. Good guys get green. Got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles logo at the top. Got the green brick wall in the back. Nickelodeon, Super 7. Got the bio, the little power box at the top. Some turtle shell graffiti here with the Turtles logo on it. Let's go ahead and read the bio real quick before we do anything else. Michelangelo, the wild and crazy turtle. Does he have like a little bow and arrow that fits over his head like Steve Martin? I don't know. Probably not. I haven't gone through all the accessories yet, but I kind of doubt it. Michelangelo is a party reptile. I believe he's a party dude, is what he is. Even though the sinister Shredder may be slicing his way through the manhole cover, Mikey stays cool. Cool because he's the master of the whirling nunchucks and master of the whirling pizzas. It takes 8 pounds of pressure per square inch to break bone. The nunchucks generate 90. In the midst of the most perilous battles, Mikey can be seen swinging his deadly nunchucks in one hand while dangling a wedge of pizza in the other. Does he come with a wedge of pizza? We'll find out when we open this guy up. I watched John Wick 4 the other day, which I hadn't gotten around to watching yet, and I do love the John Wick movies, but never got around to watching the 4th one, unfortunately. Finally just watched it yesterday when I was visiting with my mother and my sister, and saw Sinners also, which is an excellent movie. So we had a good day yesterday. But there's a scene where John Wick uses some nunchucks, and I liked the way that Keanu dealt with the nunchucks, because he wasn't being all showboaty about it. He wasn't spinning him around on one finger by the string in the middle, like some people I could mention. He was using the nunchucks in a more sort of like practical, perfunctory, uh, like sort of way, you know, like like you know, he was just using them as a weapon, not using them to try to impress anybody. And you know, I think that like the idea of somebody just kind of swirling around the nunchucks just to do it, just to show how skilled they are with it. I think that started with Bruce Lee, who of course is, you know, the great martial artist of all time. And you know, of course, Bruce Lee is going to want to show off, and most people at that time didn't even know what a nunchuck was, so it's probably necessary to show it off. But there's a lot of Bruce Lee's DNA in how Michelangelo can get kind of showboaty with his nunchucks. So there's the little piece of tape on either side here. I'm going to go ahead and cut that away. Even though this is secondhand, I don't think that this one's been opened up. He's still got the twist tie around his midsection. The tape is still over here on the sides of the extra blister on the inside. He's got a little indentation there where his shell would go. Although I will say, if anything makes me think that these had been opened at one point, it's that the one of the plastic nunchucks in here has come loose. So the accessories that are in the extra bubble this time is we got, as I already mentioned, the all plastic nunchucks, the painted all plastic nunchucks, and then the weapons tree. Just like how the original Michelangelo figure, the original Playmates figure from back in 1989, or was it 88? He came with these weapons on the tree like this. I don't know how exactly reproduced it is. Obviously, some of these weapons are different in terms of the sculpt. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we got 6 hands from Michelangelo. Let's get into talking about those and what hands are on the figure. So we've got a couple of solid fist hands. So Michelangelo can punch a foot ninja right in his robot face. There we go. We got both of those. And then it looks to be 2 gripping hands. And they look like the same gripping hands that are already on the figure. And for those of you wondering, and I know I wondered this when I was looking at Casey Jones, why you would have 2 identical sets of hands. I'm going to guess, just without having looked at it yet, since I learned this looking at Casey Jones, like probably one of these has the horizontal hinge on the hands, and one of them has the vertical hinge on the hands. And then we have some kind of gesturing hands where the fingers are kind of splayed out a little bit more. They're cool looking. I like those. And then once I get these out, we can take a closer look at those painted all plastic nunchucks, because he technically comes with 3 sets of nunchucks. So there's that. All right. So the set that were in the back here loose is these are the same as the ones that are on the weapons tree. The same sculpt anyway, but you can see that these are painted. So they got gold detailing at the pommel and where the chain meets the stick, and the chain itself is painted silver. And then the actual color of these, I believe, is that same sort of brownish color. It's kind of a burnt sienna kind of color, kind of brownish, kind of on the reddish orangish side of brown. So the weapons tree has 2 more of these nunchucks unpainted, the Kama unpainted, the 2 different fist daggers unpainted, and 2 throwing stars unpainted. And it looks like Michelangelo's are the larger size of throwing star that we see. So I'm guessing it's going to match up with Shredder with his throwing star as far as the size goes. And comparing in the package, in the little baggie I got here with various accessories in it. This started out as a Mauser accessory bag, and then I just started putting all the extra SUPER7 stuff I have in there. So I'll probably do that with some of Michelangelo's stuff too by the end of this. But But yeah, you can if you want a more vintage Playmates toys accurate Ninja Turtle, you could always take these weapons off of the tree and use them for Michelangelo. But most people I've noticed don't do that. They just leave this intact as a nostalgic reminder of uh, days gone by, and just use the painted accessories in there. Now, one thing about these Ninja Turtles that's interesting to me is all four of them come with an extra head. And while the original head, or the head that's on the figure, is based on the original head, I should say. We'll get a closer look at that in a little bit, but very similar to what the Playmates Michelangelo head looked like. This one's got a little more style to it, as far as I think this is like a default SUPER7 Ninja Turtle head. I think this is not like necessarily. I don't know what the exact point of this is. You could call it a more modern head, but I think that the Four Horsemen sculpted these, and the Four Horsemen, obviously with the head that's in the package there, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Like I said, it's supposed to look like the Playmates version, and say this one the Four Horsemen did. This one obviously was supposed to look more like the Mirage comics. Yeah, I got him over here so we can compare. This one I think is just pure Four Horsemen. I think like this is kind of just like the Four Horsemen doing their own take on a Ninja Turtle without having to be slavish to any kind of design from a cartoon or a comic book or a movie or an older toy, anything like that. Like this is just kind of like this is how they see the Ninja Turtles. That's kind of my theory as to what these heads should be. And you can see that Michelangelo's just got this big, crazy, cheesy grin on his face. This is definitely a boy that just saw his one true love, and his one true love is pizza, and he's just in awe of that pizza. So we'll go ahead and set that aside. And I have seen a lot of people say that they prefer those Four Horsemen type heads. I'm just going to call it the Four Horsemen head because of that. And of course, some people would want to have the original toy head. And you might be somebody who's like either one. You might think like, say, Leonardo has a better toy type head, but Raphael has a better Four Horsemen type head. I don't know. So this pizza box, this is being fun to take out of the package, and it seems to be made out of kind of a rigid plastic, but I don't know how sturdy a plastic it is. And now I'm just really worried about breaking this thing when I get it out of here. I'm just really worried it's going to snap apart in the middle because it's packed in there very tightly. There we go. I got it out. And it's not hinged. It's just solid like that. And I think it's two pieces of plastic that are actually glued together. So hopefully if it had come apart, it wouldn't have broken so much as just come unglued. But you can see they put a lot of effort into designing this pizza box and the design on top to make it interesting and not boring at all. I mean, look at that. Like, it's just pizza. It is your birthday, period. I will say they put a little black drop shadow underneath the red lettering there. So, but you kind of I don't know. I probably would have made it look like, that sort of generic pizza box, that sort of generic New York pizza box that you see a lot of people use on Ninja Turtle stuff a lot of the time. I think one of the collected editions of the comics had a box based off of that, and I see action figure packages based on that type of pizza box all the time. I'm pretty sure it's public domain. You can just use it, or at least change it enough that you don't have to pay for it, but we know what it is, kind of thing. And you see it's got one slice of pizza in there that is not removable. It's glued in there pretty solid. I'm pretty sure it's a separate plastic piece, but it is just glued in there. And you see a little red dot in there on the box, like a little piece of pepperoni that came loose. That's not sculpted in there either. That's just like a little red dot that's printed on there. But obviously, it's supposed to be a slice of pepperoni that came loose. I guess they figured it wasn't worth sculpting something in that was going to be just basically a relief on there anyway. But yeah, Michelangelo comes with the pizza box. The rest of the boys will come with a slice of pizza, but Michelangelo's is just stuck in the box there. Ironically, the one who's most obsessed with pizza is the one that does not come with a slice of pizza he can actually be eating. It does have some cheese kind of sculpted to the top there, so that's nice. I think they could have done a better job with that pizza box, if I'm being real about it. But like, you know, it's nice to have, but I don't think it reached its full potential as what it could have been. So Michelangelo comes with the fist dagger that all the old Ninja Turtle figures came with, all those vintage ones that we grew up playing with. They all came with this fist dagger type weapon. And the new one comes with that too. And then this dagger, which I've mentioned many times before, you know, originally all these were colored brown, just like what's on the weapons tree. And this was the one that when I was a kid, I pretended like this was the Ninja Turtles pizza slice, because you can see it looks vaguely like a pizza slice. Maybe a little less when it's painted silver, but when it was painted all brown, all the accessories were painted all brown. It was a lot easier for you to just kind of imagine it was something else. Bobby Wallet is here, and he says, of course he won't come with a slice of pizza. He's already eaten it. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Thankfully, though, when we opened the Mauser the other day, remember, he comes with a slice of pizza. Although the slice of pizza that the Mauser comes with looks like it has some little green, whatever those are on there. Maybe they're supposed to be peppers, but they don't look like slices of peppers to me. You know what? They've got ridges on them. I kind of wonder if that's supposed to be pickles, which is not a typical pizza topping, but anybody who's seen the original Ninja Turtles cartoon knows that they ate a lot of atypical pizza toppings. So here's the comma, and you can see again that one's got some silver paint on it and some gold paint down at the pommel of the handle, and mostly just molded in that brown plastic. Got a little warped in the package, but we can straighten that out later. Let's see, what else do we have as far as the weapons go? We got the throwing stars, so we can have a look at those. And like I said, almost all these accessories, there's a couple of exceptions, but most of these accessories, most of these weapons, they will be on that weapons tree. Obviously, the pizza box is not one of them, and we'll get to the other ones that aren't. Michelangelo does not seem to come with a turtle communicator, which I know that most of the boys do, but Michelangelo, I don't see one in this package. Probably because they decided another accessory was a little more important. We'll get to that in a minute. But there's the throwing star, and since I want to make sure I don't lose those, I'm going to go ahead and put the throwing stars straight into this baggie. In fact, I'm going to put his superfluous extra ninja accessories in there too while I'm thinking about it. And since we already talked about these plastic nunchucks, I might as well put those in there too. It is kind of a pliable plastic, and these would be good for like if you wanted to have them posed with the nunchucks swinging around, especially if you manage to bend them into a pose you like. But it's not like the vintage Michelangelo nunchucks where it was just kind of a little plastic cord in between. It actually is this sculpted chain, so you might want to be really careful of stress marks on those. Obviously, with the painted versions, it's not going to be apparent the stress marks, but with the solid plastic ones, if you wanted to use those, yeah, I'd be careful of that. So he's got two nunchucks with, what was that fell out? Something else fell out. I heard it hit my leg. Was there something stuck on the back? And I heard it hit the ground. Oh, well, I'll figure it out later. So these are the nunchucks that have the chains on there. And a lot of people really like to have the chains because you can really swing them around. But it's good to have the all plastic ones too, because like I said, if you pose them just standing on the shelf with these, just like with this guy, it's going to be that chain hanging down all limp and impotent looking. but but you know, they're fun to play with, aren't they? So he's got the two chain nunchucks. And if I was gonna pose him with the nunchucks in his belt, those would be the ones I would put in there because I wouldn't want to worry about the stress marks, like I said. And then last, certainly not least, we have Michelangelo's real definitive weapon, the grappling hook. And I'm pretty sure that they included the grappling hook at the expense of the turtle communicator. And it seems like for whatever reason, maybe it's some kind of glue they used on this. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. You see how the string is kind of sticking up there? It's very stiff. The rest of the string is nice and soft, and you can see how it kind of, you know, it's a very thin string. It seems like the same kind of string that they put on April's press pass. Maybe this string could have been a little more substantial. I don't know. And it's got the little grappling hook, the actual hook parts of it. And even though it's sculpted to look like it's got hinges on there, it's just solid sculpted on there. So yeah, Michelangelo's real definitive accessory once the censors decided he couldn't use nunchucks in England. They had to ruin the cartoon here in America because it got too difficult for them to cut the nunchucks out. So they just had him using a grappling hook as a weapon all the time. So Michelangelo, master of the whirling grappling hook. So anyway, let's go ahead and set that aside. Actually, I'm just going to go and put that in the baggie. Unfortunately, the string on there wasn't like wound up or anything. It's just kind of a loose string hanging off there. So it's probably just going to get tangled on stuff while it's in there. Last but not least, Michelangelo himself. Let's go ahead and get this out of the package. Now, I always open the Ninja Turtles in the same order, which is ascending order. I start with Michelangelo, who is my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle, and work my way up. And I'm sorry out there to any Michelangelo fans where it's like he's your favorite, and you know he's I think Michelangelo is probably the most popular Ninja Turtle. I think most people, if they pick their favorite Ninja Turtle, they probably say Michelangelo. And honestly, I think for a lot of casual Ninja Turtle fans, like not the hardcore fans, but for people who like they remember the cartoon from when they were a kid, kind of thing. Like my sisters would be like this, where like you know, I'm sure they remember the cartoon, they have fond memories of it, but they weren't like huge fans of it like I was. They watched it with me and they liked it. But you know, if you say Ninja Turtles to most normal people, like most normies, most kind of casuals as far as that goes, if you say Ninja Turtles, their first reaction is often going to be, "Oh yeah, party on, pizza time, cowabungas," all the stuff like you would imagine Michelangelo is saying. So you know, people love Michelangelo. Michelangelo is great. I love Michelangelo, which is why I like to say he's my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle. I don't like to say least favorite Ninja Turtle because that implies I don't like Michelangelo. But I do like Michelangelo. I love Michelangelo. I just like Donatello a little bit more. And I like Leonardo a little bit more than I like Donatello. And I like Raphael the most of all. So that's how that works. Bobby Wald says, "I'm happy my mom was never one of those protesting parents about the weapons in Ninja Turtles." Yep, the same with me. My mom, was fine with me having like whatever, like He-Man swords and guns. I had toy guns and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, she was never one who was really concerned about violence in the children's media. So good on her. I think a lot of parents, and this is something that happened with He-Man also, is that a lot of parents would just see a character with a sword And just seeing a character with a sword, not even doing anything with the sword, but just having a sword, they would see that as violence. And it's like He-Man never actually used. Good work, boy. You used that sword for its intended purpose. But you never saw He-Man use his sword for its intended purpose on the show. Sometimes he might cut through like a rope or a you know something holding up a wall or something like a pillar or a beam or something. But you never saw him stab a person. You never saw him cut somebody's hand off. You never saw him decapitate anybody. He never used this sword as like an actual weapon, It's just the magic sword that turned him into He-Man. But like I say, I think a lot of parents would just see a guy with a sword and say that's violent. Likewise, on the cartoon, the Ninja Turtles hardly ever used their weapons on actual people or creatures or anything like that. They'd usually use their swords again to maybe cut through somebody else's weapon or something like that. And Michelangelo wouldn't really be hitting people with his nunchucks. He'd be hitting robots, but again, just them having the weapons was enough, I think, for some parents to go, that's violent. And that's why they didn't use their weapons in the second movie, because a lot of people just thought that just them having weapons without even using them was too violent. So anyway, yeah, that's something that like I always just find really annoying. But yeah, like I did honestly, when I first bought the original Ninja Turtles action figures, Michelangelo actually was the first one I bought, and it was because he was the first one I saw. If the first one I saw had been Donatello, I would have bought Donatello instead. If the first one I saw had been Raphael, oh, you bet I would have bought Raphael. But yeah, this guy is he's a cool character, but he's my fourth favorite. That's how it is. So he does look very much like that original Playmates turtle. One thing I noticed is they put a lot more detail into his shell. You can see like there's a lot more texture on there than the original one had, and there's lots of like little marks and things like that. And he's got the 4 loops in there, so you can hold his nunchucks in the back like Michelangelo could with the original figure. And like I said, that head sculpt is great. It looks just like how I remember the original Michelangelo figure looking when I was a kid. And he's got the kind of dark sort of forest green skin color. He looks really cool. And I don't know what thought process they came up with when they were deciding on the color scheme of these figures. As far as like the what bandanas each Ninja Turtle had and what skin color each Ninja Turtle had, even though they all have different bandana colors, obviously, and different skin colors in the action figures. But I will say that I think that the orange on the bandana works really well with the darker green skin. I think that those contrast really well. Of course, he's got that kind of mustard yellow on the front part of his shell, and the back part of his shell is a very dark green color. So he's got like merman skin color. It's kind of close to what merman has. So I like that. Blue Eye Mario says, "This is good morning. How are you today?" Oh, I'm tired. But I've been talking about this figure for a while, so I'm doing all right. I'm gonna have to go into work early today, so I want to try to bang this out real quick, and hopefully tomorrow I can do Donatello. But if I don't open up Donatello tomorrow, it'll be the day after. I'm gonna get all 4 of these opened up this week. So and one interesting thing that I noticed about this too is that his elbow and knee pads, it seems like they're a separate piece of plastic. So those are actually molded in orange plastic rather than just being like, green plastic that they painted orange. So that's kind of interesting. Let's talk about the articulation now. So Michelangelo can look up about that far, look down about that far, which is not too far down. No, it seems like that's as far as he's going to be able to look down. Tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders. And they move up to the sides. I think I can do better than that. Yeah, it's just kind of stiff. Move up to the sides about that far. This one might move up even further, but it seems like it's stuck where it's at, and I don't want to try to push it any further. But you can see the left arm raises up a little bit higher, but I think that's just how mine is. I think like it probably just needs to, yeah, I can get it to move up a little higher. Now I think I gave this one to move up a little higher, but whatever. It seems like that's about as high as his arms raise up. Let's go ahead and put him back down at the side. He's got a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow that bends up about that far, not quite 90 degrees. It kind of bumps into that elbow pad a little bit, and then that rotates all the way around. He's got a bicep swivel and a rotation at the elbow. Wrist rotates all the way around. And as I expected, this hand that's on the figure has a vertical hinge. Now, I don't really necessarily think that a vertical hinge would be necessary for Michelangelo with his nunchucks weapons, but it's nice to have the option that I have a vertical hinge or a horizontal hinge whichever one I want to use. And I figure I'll leave the vertical hinge on here just because, it's already on here. I mainly want gripping hands. I don't really, like I said, it doesn't really matter to me on Michelangelo whether he's got a vertical or a horizontal hinge. But I know for Raphael and Leonardo, since they have bladed weapons, those I'm going to want to have that horizontal hinge on there. So I'm glad to have those on these figures. And Donatello, I guess it's going to depend on how I want to pose him. We'll see how I can get him to pose with that staff when I open him up on the next episode. He does have waist articulation, which is unusual for a Ninja Turtle figure because of the shell. But can you see that underneath there? Yeah, like he's got a pelvis that actually does rotate, and should in theory rotate all the way around, but it's going to bump into that shell, so I'm just not going to bother. And it looks like it does have a little bit of back and forth and side to side movement on it as well. But yeah, he's got waist articulation, so that's cool. They didn't need to do that. I would have been fine with not having waist articulation on a Ninja Turtle figure because they got that big shell. But they found a way to do it, so that's nice. Four Horsemen managed to get articulation into their NECA figures, so I guess they managed to do it with the Super 7 figures too. Michelangelo can kick up about that far, which is pretty good for a guy with a shell, isn't it? And then he can do the splits no problem. I can feel some ratcheting there. But yeah, there he is with that. And oh man, now it seems to be stuck. There we go. All right. I do kind of feel like the joints in the Super 7, like the plastic on them is like a little on the narrow side. So then I always be kind of worried about moving these hips around. I kind of wish the hip pins were a bit thicker is what I'm saying. So, yeah, there we go. Got the knee joint again, almost 90 degrees, but it kind of bumps into that knee pad a little bit. So it doesn't quite make it. And then, like with the Shredder, it's got that kind of where it rotates where the knee meets the shin. I'd rather it rotated where the knee meets the thigh, because I feel like that gives you some better posability. I don't know why they decided to do it that way. Michelangelo's foot can point down about that far. Michelangelo's foot can point up about that far, and then that can rotate all the way around where the foot meets the ankle. So nice articulation all around. Pretty dang decent. Let's go ahead and get these nunchucks in his hands and see what he looks like with those. Now these hands are a fairly rigid type of plastic for hands. I wish that there was a little more pliable, but I can still get the nunchucks in there fairly easily, thankfully. There we go. And there he goes, swinging his nunchucks around. All right. So let's go ahead and compare with the NECA Mirage Ninja Turtles. And you can see he's just a little bit taller than that one. I'd say about half an inch. and definitely a lot more muscular. Like by the time that Playmates was making these toys, the boys had bulked up a little bit in the comic books. And I think their style continued to evolve past the point where Playmates sculpted the original Ninja Turtle prototype figures, Donatello being the first one. And this is I think probably what they looked like around the time that they first met the Triceratons. I think, if I remember correctly. Anyone in the comic books who or comic books, anyone in the comments who's actually read the comic books, if you want to weigh in the comments and let me know what you think as far as how these compare to the comic books, and what era you think they're closest to. Like I said, they looked a lot different by the time they got to this point in the comics. And I think by the time the toys actually came out, they were in Northampton, and they were looking even a little bit more different from this. I think that was around the time that the look of the turtles kind of solidified. And if you see Kevin Eastman or Peter Laird draw a Ninja Turtle these days, they usually draw them the way they looked when they arrived in Northampton. So that's usually the default Mirage Ninja Turtle of the modern era. But like I said, when I first read the comics, I read those early issues, and they looked like this, and that's still kind of my definitive look for the Ninja Turtles. I like those early issues. I really like that design. But this is another design that in its own way hits the nostalgia button for me. We've talked a lot about various designs of Ninja Turtles figures on this channel. I haven't gone over all of them. Like, for one thing, I haven't talked about the 1987 cartoon too much, because I haven't had an opportunity to open up a figure with that design. But I think that's what a lot of people would consider to be their definitive Ninja Turtle design. That's what a lot of people would have grown up with as being their main one. And I've got a lot of nostalgic affection for it. I already mentioned the early Mirage is probably my favorite, but I like the later Mirage stuff too. And of course, I'm a huge fan of the 1990s Ninja Turtle movie. So I definitely wanted to have figures that represented that iteration of the boys. But I gotta say, those early Playmates figures, like I say, they hit my nostalgia button in their own sort of way. So I'm glad to have some figures that are kind of like, modern, updated, adult collectible takes on those. And the Playmates, the remastered Ninja Turtles figures, which was pretty much like the older Ninja Turtles figures with more articulation added to them. Those I thought were really cool too. I really liked those, but these and those kind of both have their own way of updating those Ninja Turtles designs. Those were basically like still children's playthings. This is something that's more made for somebody that grew up with the original ones. So, and that would be me. And I was a little on the older side. I was already at the point where I was kind of outgrowing playing with action figures at that point. Sadly, tragically. I wish I could still play with action figures the way I used to when I was a kid, because I had a lot of fun doing it. But your brain changes or something. It's weird. But still, I think I was just young enough that I was still able to play with the Ninja Turtles figures for a little bit, and I still collected them. Like I said, I was a fan of the comic book, so I liked having the toys. Head Over Diecast is here and says hello, yay, more TMNT. Yeah, and we're almost at the tail end of this episode. Unfortunately, I got to leave for work in just a few minutes, but you can go back and rewatch the replay if you want to, and see me talk a little bit more about this. And next episode, which hopefully will be tomorrow, I'm going to open up Donatello, and I've still got Leonardo and Raphael to go. So, and technically, at least out of the stuff I got to open up, I got at least one more Turtles of Grayskull figure. Although that figure is Mechanex, so he's only kind of borderline tangentially connected to Ninja Turtles, but still, I'll probably be opening up that one some point in the near future. I guess maybe next week I'll open them up because yeah, I don't want to say any more about that. But Head Over Diecast says, is it true there's going to be a new TMNT movie? Well, it does appear to be the case. They are working on one right now, or at least they say they were. They were working on a Last Ronin movie, but unfortunately they decided to cancel that. I hope it's just going to be a postponement and it still gets made. I really want to see that Last Ronin movie. But I think that maybe Paramount thinks it's a good idea to have a more default version of Ninja Turtles, like before they get into doing any kind of like alternate universe thing, like Last Ronin. I think they maybe want to establish what their default version of Ninja Turtles is. And I don't know, Paramount seems to be like kind of struggling with what to do with Ninja Turtles lately. And it's funny because when Nickelodeon first got it, they did the 2012 series, and that was awesome. And I think most people really liked that series. You know, like obviously, we had some nitpicks. You're always going to have some nitpicks. I certainly had my share of nitpicks, but for the most part, I really enjoyed that series. I thought it was great. And I thought, okay, looks like Ninja Turtles is in good hands with Nickelodeon because they seem to be doing well with it. And then they did Rise of the TMNT, and like I couldn't get into that one at all. I'm sorry. And then the Michael Bay movie. Oh, geez. Now, the second one I thought was a little better, at least, but it was kind of too little, too late. I think they'd already kind of broken that iteration of the characters, so we never saw any more of that. And then the Seth Rogen cartoon, Mutant Mayhem, I think it was what the movie was called, and the cartoon based on that. I haven't really watched it. I hear some weird stuff about it. I do at least like the designs of the the Ninja Turtles themselves for the most part. I mean, they did give Raphael the do-rag and Donatello the nerd glasses, and that's kind of pet peevey stuff for me. But I still thought that I still thought that the designs overall were pretty good for the Ninja Turtles themselves on that, at least. Bobby Wald says, did you hear talks about the new G.I. Joe movie with that guy, that Chronicle and Danny McBride? Yeah, Max Landis. That was I think that's the guy from Chronicle. He worked on the screenplay for that. Max Landis is a dude that I'm familiar with him mainly from social media, and I'm kind of surprised to hear his name in the mix because last I heard he got canceled. Head Over Diecast says, I thought the new TMNT was okay. Okay, well that's good. So I'd rather it be okay than horrible. But I still haven't seen it yet. So one of these days I'll get around to watching it. But yeah, Max Landis apparently I don't want to get too into the stuff that he supposedly was doing that got him canceled because A, I don't really know too much about it, and B, I don't really want to be making accusations of some dude being a scumbag if I don't have what I feel like is at least sufficient evidence to go, that guy's a scumbag. But a lot of people are saying that guy's a scumbag for various reasons. Maybe it's all a bunch of bullshit though. Maybe he's not really as scumbaggy as other people are saying. But it seems to me like the sort of thing these days where people will be like, the studios and stuff will be just wanting to stay away from anybody who might have some kind of scumbag stank around them, whether or not they actually are a scumbag. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of surprised to hear his name back in the mix. Maybe they decided enough time has passed. Maybe they decided it's just complete BS and this guy didn't really do nothing, so we might as well try to let him do something again. I don't know. But I was kind of surprised to hear his name back in the mix. And Danny McBride, I thought was an unusual choice because obviously most people kind of associate him with comedy. He's definitely a comedic actor, and he's written a lot of stuff. And he's written some things that aren't necessarily like he wrote the Halloween, the more recent Halloween movies. He wrote some of those. And I know that like opinions are divided on those newer Halloween movies. And I haven't really seen enough of them that I feel like I can weigh in on how good those are or aren't. And there goes my idiot alarm telling me to wake up and get ready for work. So I gotta leave real soon. But yeah, like I will say that from what I had seen of those Halloween movies, like they're not comedies. So I think Danny McBride is capable of writing more than just comedies. So I think, he might be able to. I don't know how familiar he is with the material or anything like that. But I mean, he's a guy who's like my age. He probably grew up with this stuff. He probably at least has like, at the very least, memories of playing with the toys, even if he didn't watch the cartoon or read the comics or anything. I don't know. And I'd be willing to if I was a studio head and Danny McBride came up to me and said, "Hey, I got an idea for a GI Joe movie." I would at least be willing to hear what he had to say. I'll put it that way. He wouldn't be my first choice. Like if I was like, I gotta find somebody to write this GI Joe movie, the guy from Eastbound and Down. That's who I need to get. I wouldn't be that guy. I wouldn't be doing that. Like, but if the guy from Eastbound and Down came up to me and says, "Hey, I got an idea for a GI Joe movie," I'd be like, "All right, what's your elevator pitch?" Like at least I would, at the very least, I would do that. I would give him that kind of a chance. That would definitely be. I think he's at least competent enough that he deserves that kind of a chance. You know what I mean? And if he comes back to me and he's got a really good script, then hell yeah, let him make it. Or get another director to direct it. You know, I don't know. I think it's good that they've got more than one person working on GI Joe, because that way they can look at both scripts and if there's one that's substantially better than the other, go with that one. Maybe there's elements of both and they wind up buying both of them and kind of using stuff from each one. Maybe both of them are just absolute crap and they're like, well, we should get somebody else to write it. Honestly, I don't know who I would get to do a GI Joe movie. I don't know. I don't know who would be the guy that I would pick for that. I kind of feel like if you're going to make a GI Joe movie, the person doing it, tone is an important thing. And there needs to be there needs to be some seriousness and some drama and some gravity to the material. But at the same time, you don't want to take it too seriously. There's still got to be some humor to it. And I'm not talking about campy, goofy, I don't want to see like a James Gunn GI Joe movie. Like, although one thing that James Gunn actually is good at, and that's something else that a GI Joe person would need to be good at. And again, I don't want James Gunn to do it. Keep him away from it. But James Gunn is good at handling ensemble casts, and that's another thing that I kind of feel like GI Joe needs to have some drama and some weight. It needs to have a person in charge of it that's good at handling ensemble casts, and it needs to still, even with it having drama to it, it still needs to have some humor to it, but not goofy, campy, potty humor like that. Anything like that? No potty humor. Not something like that. GI Joe humor is character humor, and it's witty dialogue. Like if you go to read those comics, Larry Hama had a lot of good snappy dialogue to those comics, and a lot of the humor came from like the characters themselves. And my best advice to anybody making a GI Joe movie is read the old Marvel comics and read the file cards on the back of the package, because there's some gold in those things. If you want to understand these characters, you got to read those file cards, because there's a lot of stuff that's in the file cards that didn't quite make it into the comics. Remember that Larry originally wrote the file cards when he was trying to figure out who the characters were. So he wrote dossiers on each of the characters. And Hasbro liked his dossiers enough, they put them on the back of the action figure package. That's where that came from. So a lot of that stuff is stuff that didn't actually make it into the comics. It's just stuff that Larry put into the dossiers, so he knew it. So when he wrote the characters were staying consistent. But like, I still remember when I read Clutch's file card, and you know, he still calls women chicks, and he greases his hair with old motor oil. These are things that are burned into my brain. So yeah, the file cards are gold. Go back and read those file cards. You can find them all on the internet. Like, there's no excuse to not be able to read those file cards. And that'll tell you what you need to know about those characters. Read the file cards, read the old Marvel comics. And like, you know, I know you're going to have some stuff from the cartoon show in there too, but you know, I kind of feel like surface level stuff is enough for the cartoon fans. Like, you don't really need to get too heavy into the cartoon lore. They don't really care about that. They care about Yo-Jo and knowing is half the battle, and red lasers and blue lasers, and God, pork chop sandwiches. I don't really care for those. I'm sorry, I'm the guy who does not like those parody PSAs, but those are just kind of off-putting to me. I don't really want to get into it, but I was not really a big fan of any of those. But yeah, hopefully new G.I. Joe movie will be good. Hopefully the new TMNT movie will be good. And Paramount's doing both of those. So if they do screw them up, looking at you, Paramount. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Like I said, I got to be heading into work, and I don't have much time left. And I do want to make sure I take a photo of this guy for my thumbnail before I leave. So that's it from Michelangelo. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe. So I like to say like and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about Michelangelo. I like it when you leave comments. And again, I want you to leave a comment and let me know what era of the comic book you think that design is closest to. Like I said, to me, it feels very much like the around the time they met the Triceratons. So, but that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Excuse me. Now I get hiccups. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We will talk to you next time. Bye.